I did hit the button. I hit the button. We have gone live. Are we live? Are we live?
Oh.
It's live. And we are going to talk about the science. Yes, we are. It's a fun show. We're back. Happy New Year, everybody.
Is.
Yay. Oh, I have word that we are live. So, starting the show in 3. Oh, wait. Never mind, because I forgot to do something. Hold on.
We need music.
Yeah, that's the thing. You gotta have the thing for the music, and if I don't have it plugged in, then it goes like that, just like that. And then I have to hit all the buttons because I don't like following the rules that the computer sets, and then Apple tells me to do the things, and I'm like, bite it, Apple. Okay. Starting the show.
I mean, never mind, our tech overlords. We love you.
Yes, never mind. A 3, a 2. This is TWIS. This Week in Science, episode number 753, recorded on Wednesday, January 8th, 2020. 2020, Science Vision. Hey there, I'm Dr. Kiki, and tonight on This Week in Science, we are going to fill your head with predictions past, predictions future, and science. But first...
Disclaimer. There are few things upon which you can always rely. Change is one of those. A steady friend throughout a life. Change is always there with the birth of a new year, the death of an old idea, the steady ticking off of moments that make up a dull day, a new job, a new love, a new pair of multi-pocketed cargo shorts, a brand new car, new obstacles, new challenges, new insights, and new discoveries, and even old and familiar. The routine and the run-of-the-mill might begin to hum to a different drum. There are so many ways in which we encounter change that it is often much more difficult to identify the things that have stayed the same. One thing that has not changed much over the past 10 years is the passion and persistence of scientists, shaking shadows to see what secrets shake loose, providing us with plenty of non-fiction pulp upon which to present a podcast full of unpredictable changes. Your steady friend throughout life, This Week in Science, is coming up next.
I've got the kind of mind.
Well, we lost the theme music, but you get it kind of goes on like that for a while. One thing that also doesn't change,
one place to go.
technical difficulties on seek.
I want to know what's happening. What's happening? What's happening this week in science? What's happening? What's happening? What's happening this week in science?
Good science to you, Blair.
And a good science to you too, Justin, Blair, and everyone out there. Welcome to another episode of This Week in Science. Happy New Year!
Yeah, Happy New Year to you too.
It's a new decade.
It is a new day, a new dawn, a new decade.
A new tens column.
It is.
And a happy new tens column to you.
It is a big one. It's hard to imagine that this year marks the 20th year of TWIS. What? It does.
Is that right? Oh, my
That is
goodness.
right. We are in our 20s now, people. Since our inception, this is a big year, big decade for us. I hope it is our best ever. We have a long past, and I hope we have a brilliant future with you. Yes. Oh, my goodness. What do we have in the show this evening? Well, we have, science, because we have to bring the science. But that's going to be in the second half of the show. This is our predictions show. This is the show of prognostication. For the first little bit, we will go into the past. We predicted what would happen in 2019. How did we do? I don't know. We'll find out in just a moment. And then we'll predict what will happen in the future. What's going to happen in 2020? We are going to place our bets. If you have bets and you are watching live, put yours in the chat room, in the chat, and we will see if we can grab them and throw them in with the predictions that we're talking about while we're going through that in the first half of the show. That's right. Second half of the show, though, it's a science. I've got fast radio bursts and brain organoids because, yay, that's awesome. What else do we have? Justin, what did you bring for science?
I got, of course, more ancient human news, as well as some viral insects.
Viral insects. Okay. I want to hear about that one. That sounds interesting. And Blair, you've got some animal cornery stuff for us?
Oh, yeah. I have, let's see, bear mussels, and I have bird and bat guts.
Oh, you in your hands? In a
It's,
bag?
you know, it's like the new
It's-
fad diet for 2020. Bear mussels and bird and bat guts. It's
And
like
an
the
eye
new
of-
keto. It's
and
going
an
to be
eye
great.
of newt.
Yeah.
It's like a witch's recipe.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. Gotta bring out the cauldron, but it's the wrong season. Oh, we're fresh
It's
in
never
new
the
year.
wrong season.
All right. We'll keep the show very kid and happy friendly. We're going to keep it going. If you have not subscribed to us before, would love to know why you haven't. Well,
Yeah, get back to us, will you?
let us know.
What have
are
you been doing?
what are we doing? Why aren't
First
you
of all,
subscribing?
how are you listening to this? Second of all, what's going on here?
What's up with that? You can find us all places that podcasts are found, the Apple Podcast Directory, Google Play Podcast Directory, also Spotify, Spreaker, TuneIn, Radio.com, Pandora, all over the place. That's right. We are everywhere. Tell your friends, and you can find us searching This Week in Science on YouTube and Facebook, and you can also find us at our website, TWIS.org. Okay, let's jump into the show with our magic. Oh, I was going to also remind people. That's right. San Francisco Bay Area people, or if you're in the Bay Area next week, where are we going to be, Blair?
Oh, we're going to be at the most wonderful time of the year, SF Sketchfest at the Cal Academy Nightlife. So it's like all of the things in one, the amazing sketch comedy and stand-up comedy and the science museum and the nightlife and the drinking and the dancing. It's all going to be in one place.
Yes.
It's going to be amazing.
It's going to be so amazing. And I hope to see some wonderful faces there. Come say hi. Blair will sign your calendars. I won't. No, I'm kidding.
Kiki will just rip them in half. Like a
Just
phone
run
book.
away. Rip
Get
them in
outta
half
here.
and run away cackling. No, I would love to sign some calendars as well. I don't know, Justin, will you sign calendars or do you have another plan?
Yeah, I can handle that.
You can
That's about the
handle that.
level.
I think
Okay.
that's
I
like, how much coffee have you had today, Blair? That's what I'm seeing on your face.
I'm loving the idea of signing somebody else's artwork.
Yeah.
That sounds like a great idea. Like, oh yeah, oh this beautiful artwork. Yeah, let me just put my autograph right there.
Oh,
Just make
Right.
up new scientific names for the animals. It'll be great.
That'll work.
We can unscience the thing on the calendars. All right. Well, we will be there next Thursday, January 16th. You can find a link to buy tickets at our Facebook page. We've gotten a Facebook event up there, or you can just go to sketchfest.com. I think is what their website is to look for the Cal Academy Nightlife event. All right. Now let's jump into the show. Oh my goodness. All sorts of businessy things getting through the first show of the year. It's very exciting, though. Last year, I predicted that the Chinese mission to the moon would be successful and would stoke the fire of the race back to the moon and onto Mars for the United States. And was I right? Yes, China is roving the moon. They've got a rover on the moon. They just actually released a whole bunch of images, high resolution images from the surface of the moon on the far side of the moon. So we're getting all sorts of really interesting data from the Chinese mission to the moon. It's very exciting. And There is a little bit of a race going on at this point. Maybe not to the
Is
moon
there?
necessarily. Yeah, but I actually saw a headline on Ars Technica this week about the United States having to really work hard to be able to have launch supremacy over China. That currently China holds launch supremacy over the United States. So I feel like there's a little bit of this space race heating up there, just a little bit.
Yeah, but is it going to be the U.S.? I mean, or is the U.S. just going to be rooting for like Elon Musk to beat China back to the moon? I mean, there's a
more accurate.
yeah.
It depends on how you look at it.
We've taken a back seat to space exploration for a while as a nation.
Yeah. Let's see. Speaking of other space predictions, I predicted the Indian moon mission would launch successfully. And because I was an optimist, I said it would suck for the mission to fail after so many delays, and so that it would have to work. Well, the launch went fine. The Chandrasekhar mission got into the orbit around the moon. Everything was going great until they deployed their lander, which the software glitched and they crashed into the surface of the moon. When they later found it, they determined that it had been growing rather quickly when it reached the surface of the moon. So there wasn't really anything left to salvage. But they're going to try again. So we'll see what happens there this year. Who knows? Third time's a charm. Let's see. LIGO Virgo, I predicted, would discover many more black hole mergers from big ones to little ones. And yes, the LIGO Virgo collaboration has continued to detect black holes mergers, and also neutron star mergers, which I did not predict. So there's a combination of things. I said we would see a successful SpaceX test of its crew capsule and docking with the International Space Station. Yes, that happened. It's all systems are go there. I predicted stem cell therapy companies would make a lot of noise as the FDA regulations began to kick in and cause some growing pains for the treatment, the rehabilitation, regenerative medicine treatment industry. And yeah, there hasn't, it has definitely caused a little bit of a stir in the stem cell industry. There was a legal battle last year that the FDA won against a stem cell company that was basically lying about treatments that it was giving. So there's a lot going on that regulation of stem cell treatments at the moment. It's just an ongoing story. There will be, I predicted, a kerfuffle between China and the rest of the world regarding CRISPR use in humans. I don't know if there was a kerfuffle. That was like 2018 when He Jiankui announced his CRISPR babies. But it's been a year since, over a year now, and the conversation is ongoing, but I don't think that there's really like Chinese are allowing this kind of medicine to take place. I think
isn't the CRISPR baby guy in prison in China now?
Exactly.
So,
yeah. So it seems as though
it's hard to kerfuffle from behind bars.
Absolutely. It seems as though there are efforts for global conversation and regulation of this stuff that everyone's trying to play nicely together. Let's see. Mosquitoes, I predicted with gene drive would to limit reproduction would be released in the wild, and mass hysteria would ensue. There was no gene drive edited mosquito released into the wild, only into laboratories, but genetically modified mosquitoes were released. And I think people, and not mass hysteria necessarily, but people in places are concerned. People have concerns. No mass hysteria. All is good. And then last two, I predicted carbon capture would see a major development and excite more people about helping reduce our greenhouse gas emissions. No, that didn't really happen. There were no major carbon dioxide capture developments. It's, again, ongoing. But 2019, I think, was a really big year for general enthusiasm or the growth of people's awareness of climate change. So it was a big year in that way. And then I said that we would have another great year of TWIS, and I
I
think
think so.
we did. I think 2019 was one of our best years yet. It was. We had live shows. It was a year with more interviews on the show than ever before. And yeah, more people have become minions, TWIS minions. I think it's just been a great year, and I look forward to more. Justin?
Yeah. None of my predictions came even close.
No? No?
I predicted that the synthetic biological circuitry would become so popular that we would be sharing our lunch with our computers. We're not quite there yet.
No, not really.
I predicted that we would discover a solar system that was made up entirely of black holes circling each other, with a big supermassive black hole in the middle where like the sun would be, and then smaller ones with satellites. And we haven't seen it yet. We haven't proven that we've seen it yet, so it might not exist.
Maybe just not last year. We just haven't seen it yet.
Yeah,
universe
it's
is
just
a
the
big
wrong year
place.
for the prediction. Also, the wrong year to predict that time travel would be discovered.
You really went for it.
Well, now that one was it's not the year that we actually discovered how to travel in time.
It's
It's-
you discover the evidence of.
Of a time traveler from about 5 years from now, which is interesting because the time traveler is the scientist Lisa Randall, and she has to figure out then how she didn't, because she hadn't even been working on time travel, and yet she's the one that gets discovered in an ancient tomb. And despite all the evidence to the contrary of all of history,
Are you writing a book?
2019 was
Sounds
going
like
to be the year that we discovered that all sharks are primarily vegetarians, and they just eat a little fish on the side.
Uh-huh.
And I don't think we illustrated that quite yet for many years.
Again, maybe just not the year for it. Maybe it hasn't been studied
Just be a
broadly
different
enough.
year.
Yeah,
This is true.
just a different year.
But yeah, none of them really seemed like hits. Like, yeah, that one was really close. We were far off.
You did go for it. You went for I'm just going to go for
Right.
this home run, and it's either going to make it or not. And
Yeah, this year when it gets to the predictions part, I might be like, scientists will discover something important that they hadn't known before.
oh, that's a
And then I
that's a-
can
good one.
find the thing that is later.
But
And
see,
then-
Yeah,
that's more work. Now you can just type in, was time travel discovered? Nope, no
Nope.
hits. Done.
yeah, it's pretty quick. I can figure out whether or not they made it. Pretty
Yeah.
easy.
Some of mine I found were too squishy.
oh.
Squishy? You have some, well, what were they?
What
What
are
were they? Let's
yours?
hear this.
So first I predicted that tardigrades would be found in space, and we would not be sure if it was from contamination or if they started out there yet. We did in fact find tardigrades on the moon, but that's because Israel crash landed a bunch of
Crash-landed.
tardigrades on the moon.
I think
Yep.
Not really.
that's tardigrades in space.
Yeah,
I think that's a hit.
perhaps.
I think that's a hit.
I also predicted that dinosaurs would be reclassified as warm-blooded. This did not happen, but it got darn close because pterosaurs were theorized this year to potentially have been warm-blooded, but still jury's out. And we found out that whole thing about the T-Rex thermoregulation in their head. So I feel like it's getting close, but nobody stepped up to the plate and said, okay, they're warm-blooded now. So it didn't quite happen. A national state of emergency will be declared in regards to climate change, just not in the US. Definitely yes. That happened all over, in particular, very recently, Australia.
Yeah.
But actually, about 800 million people are currently living in places that have declared global warming as an emergency as of today.
Wow.
So that definitely happened, just not here. Tesla semi-trucks will go to market and start popping up across the country. Nope. Instead, we saw a Cybertruck get its window broken. Still not on to market either. The semi is supposed to hit the market this year now in 2020. Spiders will do something or be discovered doing something crazy and unexpected. That was pretty
That's
much
squishy.
guaranteed
That's
to go.
the squishy one.
Yes, and we did discover catapulting spiders this year, so I would say that is a big 10 for. Humans will invent a
I'm
new.
still stuck with the trucking. What's with you and trucking?
Humans will invent
That's
a
a
new
big 10-4, good buddy.
or overblown food allergy. No, that didn't happen. A CGI human character will star in a film alongside real actors, and we won't be able to tell the difference. I do think this is a yes because of the
Irishman.
recent Star Wars release, where there is real footage of Carrie Fisher and CGI, and it's really hard to tell which is which. They did a really good job. So I do think
Netflix has The Irishman, which stars in the first part a very young Robert De Niro, who is CGI'd. To look younger.
It's looking quite good. Foldable smartphones will hit the shelves and be short-lived. I would say I was so accurate about this that they got pre-released and immediately pulled. So that did pretty much happen in 2019. A couple people got their hands on them and they were immediately pulled off the market. They are supposed to come back out this year again. And then I predicted that TWIS...
I missed this completely. Why? Do you know why they were pulled off the market?
Yeah, they kept breaking.
Oh. That makes sense.
You know, when you fold them, the screen's broke.
Oops.
So, yeah, anyway. And then my last prediction was that TWIS will do an amazing live show somewhere new in the world with a great audience. Yes, Santa Fe. We had not been to New Mexico as of 2018. So that was a big yes.
That was a great location. Yeah, that was so much fun. So much fun. Love doing live shows. If anybody is in a location and wants to bring us out to do a live show.
Yes.
Just
key to that phrase is bring us out.
Bring us out. That's right. Okay. This is This Week in Science. I think it is time to turn our attention now to the future. Time to confer with our crystal balls and our what is our number, happy number 8 balls. And yes, Justin, would you like to start us
absolutely. 2020 predictions. 2020 is the year an object in space will be discovered hurtling towards the Earth. And while we are absolutely powerless to stop it, it's fine. It's okay. That sort of thing actually happens every day. But this will be the first time we've been able to discover an object and track it that is this small. Very small object.
How small? How small?
This small.
Okay, I'm like, what's this small for people who can't see your fingers?
Yeah, tiny pebble.
Tiny pebble.
2020 is the year that everybody begins saying, has to start saying that hindsight is 30/20.
That's not what it means, Justin.
2020 year, we finally agreed to eliminate the word therefore from the English language. Furthermore, will actually become a criminal offense. Year 2020 will be referred to as double deuce not exactly once. And that was it. That was it. That was
the one time you said it. There you go.
2020, the wealthiest in the world warm up to the idea that climate change might only be a poor people problem. But the idea quickly erodes along with most beachfront property.
Yeah, Vinod Khosla, he's going to be pretty upset about that in San Francisco.
2020, people will become aware that Google has still been developing the wearable computer glasses. The Google goggles. They've still been working on this the whole time. And they realize that when tens of thousands of people are forced to start wearing these horrendous things as part of the new gig economy jobs, where instead of receiving any form of training, you put on the glasses and they dictate what you are doing step by step throughout your day. This only lasts for part of 2020 as constant pop-up ads keep referring to people to find better jobs based on what they've been watching. In year 2020, people who watch the show Ancient Aliens will become slightly more informed about actual ancient history by watching a cooking show instead. Yeah. And 2020, last one. 2020 will go down in history as long as we make it to 2021.
Okay, so Justin, I have a question.
Thank you for that one.
I have a
and right now
question
we
for
don't
you.
know.
Justin, do you have any science news related predictions?
That was science news related. The thing tracking the smallest object.
Okay. All right.
Where is it? Hurtles towards the Earth and is actually no threat at all. That's going to be 2020. You'll see.
Sure.
Sure.
You want a science prediction? Is that what they were asking for? I didn't know. Nobody's specific. Nobody was that specific. Let's see. 2020, it will be the year that we discover a cure to that disease that we have been fighting against for so long.
Nice and squishy. Perfect.
Nice and
I mean,
squishy.
Science. Science will continue to find things that we didn't know we should even be predicting. Those are the really fun. The unpredictable things that science will discover are the really exciting things, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Blair,
Yes.
give me some predictions.
I want to add a new one right at the top.
Something soft and squishy.
Yeah, someone will turn Justin's predictions into a short story.
Maybe
they
Justin
all
himself.
sound, yeah. Here are my other predictions. Microscopic life in outer space. I'm not saying tardigrades necessarily. I think we might actually find something like a single-celled organism or bacteria or something in outer space. I think it's time. We keep seeing water and other clues. Maybe 2020 is the year we'll find life. I also predict that we'll find out we are treating lab mice wrong again. I predict that
more.
Yeah, that we will get
we'll figure that out when one of them tells us so.
There you go. I predict that we will cure a third patient of HIV in 2020.
Hey, that would make my prediction right also again. The one I said we would cure a disease.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
that's
you're stealing mine, but it's okay.
Yeah, sure. I predict that climate change will finally be discussed in the presidential debates. The conversation will be somewhat one-sided.
Finally.
I predict that more species will be found to be shrinking from climate change. I predict that a new cephalopod species will be discovered.
Oh, that would be fun.
Yes. I predict that we will reach the $2,000 a month goal on Patreon.
No, that would be amazing.
We're not far off. Come on, everybody.
Not far.
Help make my prediction come true. I also predict, just for fun, that Baby Yoda will be at least temporarily evil.
Ooh, I like this one.
And I predict that scientists will attempt to create a black hole in a lab and destroy all life.
Oh, God.
Oops.
Oops.
Wait,
Why
all
this
life
year?
in that lab? Or
No, all of it.
Oh, everywhere?
Everything.
Yeah.
It's
Problem
gotta
is,
be a bit-
if that prediction comes true, we won't be able to talk about it. But
you still want you still want everybody to know, even though they're not here to be able
even
to.
though all things will have ceased to exist, I just want me to be on record as saying
you
it
will
was
have
gonna
the
happen.
final "I told you so."
Yeah,
But I told you so.
Yeah.
I did.
I sure did.
Just as you're being sucked into past the event horizon into the singularity.
You're like, oh man,
I told you
Blair
so.
really called this one.
You'll think to yourself, and it will be the thought that lasts forever. I called this.
But then, maybe there'll be another big bang, and then they'll all be like, Blair was right. Never
I
know.
like this. 2020. It's gonna be big. There we go.
Yeah. Or very, very, very
well,
small.
or we're around for you to tell us. In which case, as an atheist, I'll be like, get in line. So did everybody else had to tell me so, and I didn't listen then either. Mhm.
There you go.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Let me dive into my predictions here. I predict in 2020, dark matter experiments in Japan and the United States will successfully go live, but they will report no evidence of the weakly interacting massive particles, WIMPs, that they seek within 2020. Maybe it's sometime later, but not in 2020. They won't report it, but they will start looking for WIMPs. The Japanese gravitational wave detector is going to also go online, and it will add to the resolution of the current LIGO-Virgo collaboration, allowing detection of even smaller merger events in the universe. I'm thinking, Justin, this is how we're going to find your black hole solar system.
Yeah, it's got to be out there. It's got to be. Everything's out there. It's got to be out there.
I'm excited, though. 3 gravitational wave detectors going online on Earth this year. It's going to be cool. SpaceX and Boeing are both going to successfully launch crewed missions to space in 2020. We will be privately putting people in space in 2020.
So when you say we, though,
not we. I mean, it's privately. Humans. I think I take it as a humanity kind of thing.
I hear the next TWIS live show from space. That's what I'm hearing.
Ooh, that would be great. Really very fast.
Yeah, I hope the connection is good. I can still talk to the two.
Yeah,
of
I
you.
don't know if we'll be able to do a live show, but we can still, live to
I
tape.
wish you both well.
Low Earth orbit and then right back in, it'd be super fun. Okay, so that's going to be successful. It's very exciting, I think. India is going to return to the moon again for another attempt at landing on the surface. I think they're going to do it. They're going to do it.
They did land on the surface.
But not
just real hard.
Not in a
Just
safe
really hard.
way.
Yeah.
Really hard. Yes. So softly. They'll land on the moon softly.
You just want to survive the landing this time. Yeah.
Artificial intelligence is going to beat humans at the game of life. Wah, wah. That's kind of a joke. Not the board game. Kind of the board game, but not
I
the
think
board
that
game.
would
The
be
actual
just
game of life.
as challenging. That game is not easy.
Yeah.
If you don't get the little college route, it's a tough, hard game the rest of the way.
I know. Self-driving cars are going to take over more roads, leading to many taxi selfies on the internet. Wacka, wacka, wacka. Yeah. Okay. I have lots of little funny little jokes. My little brain jokes. Oh my goodness. More robots will leave Earth heading to Mars, leaving behind millions of jealous humans in 2020.
Yeah.
Like, take us with you. It's all messed up down here.
This is the thing. This is what robots are better built for space. They can travel further. They have less requirements. They'll do better as space travelers than humans will. We are designed to live on a planet. We are evolved over billions of years. Well, we're evolved over billions of years to survive on one planet.
Yeah.
Robots
and they can go where no man has gone
exist
before.
Anywhere. Yeah.
Yep. Moving away from robots into squishy stuff, organoids, CRISPR, and gene drive will be in the news more in 2020 due to sensationalist scaremongering than to research advances. TWIS is going to have to calm things down.
Yeah. Except for the gene drive. I'm always going to excite that further. Sorry.
Blair, the gene drive hype girl. No.
Yeah. We're all
Anti-hype
gonna
girl.
die!
So good. Xenotransplantation involving CRISPR is going to be successful and lead to a pig to human organ transplantation. Dum, dum, dum. Stem cell trials will see successes in 2020 for macular degeneration, retinopathy, Parkinson's, and other diseases. I think stem cells will be big this year. And then following on that, in November, at the ballot, California's CIRM, that is the Council on something Regenerative Medicine. It's CIRM. They manage the stem cell research in the state of California. They will succeed in renewing their funding mandate by getting funded by the people of California to pursue more stem cell research efforts. They're going to get money. It's going to happen. More stem cell research. I think also in the end of the year, pressured by their constituents, countries around the world are going to increase their efforts to combat climate change by promising to reduce emissions even further than they have currently promised. So right now, the amounts that they've promised are barely enough to get us where we want to be. And so I think countries are going to listen to all of the marchers and the activists and the people who are asking to do something, the people who are living in the emergency areas. And
It's doable. That's
maybe
the
not the
thing.
United States, but more countries.
It's all pretty doable.
Efforts. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm hoping, I think that by the end of the year in December, when the goals for the Paris Agreement are revisited. Unfortunately, the United States will be out of the Paris Agreement by then. But at that point in
No, we'll still
December,
be-
countries, what?
I think we'll still be in.
No,
I think-
in November is when we are officially out of the Paris Agreement. And in December is the deadline for countries to renew their promises or to update their promises. And I think at the end of the year, even though the United States itself will be out, I will be heartened by the efforts of countries around the globe about climate change.
That's
And there's
interesting,
still
'cause my-
states and cities all over the United States who are they
Joining.
can't formally sign on, but they're kind of pseudo signing,
Yeah.
which is it's still good.
It is.
Yeah. I guess I was misunderstood because I guess I thought that we had like it was going to be technically we weren't out until after the election. And then it would be just a matter of like here's our new goals list if we wanted to rejoin. Like it wasn't going to be hard to
That's gonna be harder.
rejoin like a week later if there's a different will in the
Well, we're in unprecedented territory, and as a pretty big player in this, depending on how this all goes down, I'm sure that there is going to be ways for the United States to sign on in whatever way they can, if that becomes a thing that people are interested in at that point in
Yeah,
time.
if we change our mind, I have a feeling it's not the kind of thing that they go, oh no, too late, you can't
Yeah,
join.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, you're a superpower who wants to help out with this? No thanks.
Never
Wait till
mind.
next year.
Psych. Okay, and let's see.
open enrollment isn't for another 3
yeah,
months.
open
I'm
enrollment
sure.
is closed.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
And I have 4 more predictions. The climate will continue warming even as the grand solar minimum occurs this year, which is the massive reduction in solar activity, which would usually bring cooling trends to the Earth. But we're going to continue to see warming, and it will further disprove claims of solar influence in current climatic trends.
Huzzah, that one's already right.
It's already right. I know. I'm just saying further. We're just going to see more.
Wait, no, but that's a word. It's one of the words we're getting rid of. That's almost a crime.
Huzzah?
No, my prediction is next year. Furthermore, will actually be a criminal
Did I say
offense.
further? I
You
did not.
said further, which is just a misdemeanor, but they
Okay,
add up.
Mr.
quick.
All right.
Okay.
All right. Last 3. All of us will have to work more diligently to recognize fake news, fake pictures, and fake video
Yep.
online. Everybody stay vigilant and check your sources. Triple check, triangulate, and watch more TWIS. This year is also going to take patience and kindness and compassion and science. Use science and logic and facts to help you. And finally, more interviews, more live shows, and more twists in 2020.
Bring some science to the people.
Yeah, it is time to bring some science to the people. But right now, why don't we take a quick break and then we can come back with all those science stories in just a couple of moments. This is This Week in Science. Stay tuned for all sorts of fun science coming up in the second half of the show. We'll be back in just a moment.
Can explain intuition. A line of reason shows the way to go. New conclusion. The methods of hypothesis and patience are the only things I need.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of This Week in Science. If you love us online, why don't you come see us in person? We are going to be live in San Francisco at SF Sketchfest next week, January 16th at the Cal Academy of Sciences Nightlife. That's right, San Francisco, California, at the California Academy of Sciences Nightlife event next Thursday, January 16th. Come find us. And we will be doing a live show at 8:00 p.m. Pacific time. We will try to broadcast online. Historically, we've had internet issues. We will see what we can do. Regardless, there will be a podcast episode. We will get the audio recorded, and we will be able to get an episode out to you for next week, which I'm very excited about doing. But we hope that we can see you there live. So go to our Facebook page, This Week in Science, and look for our Sketchfest event that has been posted. You can find the link there and be able to buy tickets, or you can go directly to SF Sketchfest's website, search for Cal Academy of Sciences Nightlife event, and buy tickets directly there, or go straight to the Cal Academy of Sciences. Too many links, too many places. Just go to our Facebook page, or, look for us on social media. We'll be tweeting out the link. I hope to see you there. That would be really amazing. And if we are going to see you there, maybe you can be wearing like a TWIS shirt or something. Let us know that you're a fan. That would be pretty awesome. Do you have a TWIS mug? Do you drink your coffee in a TWIS mug in the morning? Oh my goodness. If you had some TWIS swag, we could sign it. We'd be like, hey, TWIS, live in the real world. That's amazing. It would be pretty cool. You can find merchandise like that by clicking the Zazzle link at TWIS.org, our website, TWIS.org. We've got the Zazzle link that will take you to our store where you can find all sorts of amazing products with the TWIS logo and also with art from past Blair's Animal Corner calendars. Also, TWIS is supported by donations. That's right. By support from you, our listeners, it allows us to be able to continue to do the things that we do, adding in some fun trips every once in a while, and also updating our technology. Thank you so much for your support on Patreon and for your donations through PayPal this last fall, summer and fall, to be able to help us purchase a new computer for Blair since her computer died. It was wonderful to be able to help her purchase that computer, and your support made that possible. If you're interested in supporting us and helping us continue to upgrade our equipment and make sure that we stay on top of things with good audio and good video quality, you can click the Patreon link at our TWIS.org website. That will take you to the Patreon community where you can choose an amount for a monthly donation, or you can just click the PayPal link. It's just a donate button on the TWIS.org page and choose an amount to donate one time. I thank you so much for your support. Thank you for listening to This Week in Science. Now on to the science. We could not do this without you.
We can explain things you've heard more than intuition. A line of reason shows the way to go. New conclusion. The methods of hypothesis and patience are the only things I need.
we're back. You're listening to This Week in Science. What
That's-
time is it now, Kiki?
It's time for science.
Yes.
Yeah, we're gonna jump right in here. Jump into our science. I have a fast repeating burst.
I'm sorry, what?
A really fast repeating burst.
What's that?
A fast repeating burst or a fast radio burst FRBs are these fast radio signals, rapid radio signals that we see on the spectra from other locations in space. Sometimes they're very hard to track down because they're unpredictable in nature in that they don't repeat. We see something, it's a flash of radio waves one time, or maybe a couple of times, and it's some weird radio signal. It's like, what was that? And then it never happens again. What has probably happened is that something released a lot of energy and then it was done and we missed it. All we saw was the release of the radio waves millions of years after it actually occurred. But every once in a while, we get fast radio bursts that repeat, where they are a signal that occurs more than once, and we're able to use that predictability, or at least the fact that they're happening over and over again, to track them down. And researchers this last year saw an FRB in 2019 that they hadn't quite figured out where it came from as of their reporting of it last year. They have now, they've called it, it has a wonderful, wonderful name, FRB 180916 is, it rolls off the tongue, this fast radio burst. They discovered it, and then over the course of 5 hours, there were 4 more bursts from the same source, and so they were able to figure out where it came from, and it came from nowhere special. You'd think that it would be something at the edge of a black hole, like a black hole eating a sun, or even a galaxy. There's all the energy that would be released in a massive burst. But no, nothing near a black hole. It was just on the edge, not even in the middle, toward the center of a black hole, in the center of a spiral galaxy, just on the edge of a run-of-the-mill spiral galaxy, kind of like the Milky Way. Approximately 500 million light years away from us. So very far away, very, very distant in time. Something occurred in the suburbs of a spiral galaxy, very similar to where we are in the Milky Way galaxy. And the question is, what could be causing something like this? Because previously, the idea has been, okay, it's happening at a star-forming region, a star-eating region. We've got blazars, we've got quasars, we've got all sorts of
Snazars.
R's.
Snazars is not is that a thing? It should be. If it's not, that's what it should be. Snazars.
This sounds like a Dr. Seuss book now.
It should be. Oh my goodness, that's a great idea. The astronomy of, of these amazing stars in the universe. So looking at other fast radio bursts, now suffice it to say, we have not studied a lot of them. We have only identified a few and have not identified many that we've been able to track back to their source. But the ones that we have been at these very extreme environments where it's like, oh, of course something's releasing a lot of energy there. That makes sense. But this one, the question is, what's going on there? What's happening in this normal, ordinary spiral galaxy that would lead to the release of energy on the level of about 500 million suns? The amount of energy that is being released is astronomical in scale.
Wait, how many millions? That's
500 million suns worth of energy. Pew, pew, pew. I mean, it's massive energy discharge. Massive. That is contributing to these radio bursts. So something big had to have happened, but it's not in a place where something big would be
should be
obvious
happening.
to have.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that is the interesting question. And so more study. These fast radio bursts are of interest to a lot of people. They may tell some interesting stories about our universe.
Is it possible to have a lensing effect around an entire galaxy? Is this
wow.
something
So
that could be happening behind the galaxy? And the entire galaxy is somehow gravitationally lensed this to where it appears to be coming from this region.
Right.
It could be coming from, instead of 500 million light years away, it's a couple 100 million light years behind that, or right, because
That's interesting.
Oh, but
That's an interesting idea.
love the mystery of it.
Yeah. Universal mysteries. Who knows? We know so little. I mean, it's like we can fill an internet with all the things we know, but we know so little. Like, we know about 4% of the universe. And even that 4%, we don't have all the answers about.
There's still a lot of question marks in that 4%.
So many question marks.
Yeah.
Oh, it's awesome.
The really exciting thing about it, though, is that the universe is so big, and what we can see in things like this is a bit of universe archaeology, in a sense, because we were looking at something 500 million years ago in this event that took place, that initiated. So it's having all of history of a universe, in a way, laid out in front of us at once at different time periods, depending on how far away things are. We are seeing different time points in the evolution of our universe. We're seeing multitudes of events that may be very, very rare even to happen but we still get to spot them when we are looking in the right direction. So it's going to be an ongoing, fascinating field for as long as there are humans to observe.
Yeah, absolutely. Kevin Unique in the chat room says, in answer to your question about lensing around a solar system or a galaxy, says, yes, it is possible, but then it would not be a focused beam of radio energy as we are seeing. It would show up as a ring, which is interesting. Yeah, that's what he's saying. Very interesting. Okay. Justin, do you have any science?
I do have something along the lines of science. Pop quiz, actually. I have a pop quiz for us. Close your books, put down your phones, grab your number twos, get ready to answer the following question.
C.
What? All right, Blair guessed it.
Oh.
Blair guessed it.
Blair got it right.
Well, the question was, what was the first type of science commonly practiced by early hominids?
So ocean science. Because I said C.
I see what you mean.
The answer you want to guess? Just pick a discipline of science you think early hominids were working on.
Animal behavior.
Medicine.
Ooh, those are both good. The answer, geoengineering.
What? I was not going. What are they? Beavers?
They were okay. So this is early Stone Age people in the study between 1.8 to 1.2 million years ago. Were engineering stone tools. Now, this is different than just crafting and manufacturing a sharp object from a stone, because according to this study, they weren't just picking up the rocks that were handy and transforming them. They were transforming specific types of stones in complex ways for optimized cutting tools, and were choosing different rocks with different edge types and different stones based on how long they would be useful, and sort of pairing that against how hard it was to acquire these stones, how far they would have to travel to get them. This is a study that is by University of Kent and University College London, and is published in the Journal of Royal Society. interface. Shows that Paleolithic hominins selected different raw materials for different types of stone tools for their different uses based on how sharp, durable, and efficient those materials were. They selected stones based on the length of time the tools would be used, the force with which they could be applied, and this reveals apparently a very complex system of understanding what stones, for what purposes, and how to craft them properly to make the tools that they needed. And this is, one of those things that just sort of, as more and more study of ancient, not even ancient humans, this is ancient hominids. This is very pre what we would call a modern current modern human. But this is one of those things that continues to remind us that regardless of how far back in time we go, we keep finding humans to be clever, intelligent, and able to do very complex tasks and understand the world that they're in. And it sort of was one of my predictions about making fun of the people who watch Ancient Aliens. The entire premise of that show seems to be, at one point, people were stupid and could not have built anything, could not have crafted, could not have moved heavy objects, could not have cut with precision, could not have pre-planned a design and carried out such a design. Because people of the ancient days were just too stupid to have done so. And
wrong answer.
And more when you actually study the innovation and understanding and cleverness of humans and hominins before humans, going way back millions of years, you start to wonder why it took us so long to come up with a lot of these things, because we were pretty darn clever right away. Hominins,
if I may, though, animals are also really clever. So I feel like this is part of the conversation where I'm with you, and then I kind of remember, like, wait, but there are crows that can pick appropriate materials for their tools and adjust shapes and sizes and store their tools and all this sorts of stuff. So it, even beyond just assuming humans are stupid, it's also the issue of assuming a stupid basal relative, which we now know that vertebrates in general are much smarter than we thought. So even just recognizing if the ancient hominids started out with what just relative vertebrates had, it's not that far to get here.
Not as far.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. I mean, crocodiles climb trees, for goodness sake.
They use tools.
Crocodiles use tools. And then if crocodiles use tools, that goes back to ancient reptilians.
They work together in teams.
Dinosaurs. Yes.
Play to their strengths.
Play with the strengths. Speaking of strengths, many of us like to think that our brains are strong. They are durable. They keep us doing what we want to do and need to do to survive. Every once in a while, however, something goes wrong in the brain and glioblastomas can form. Glioblastomas are the most aggressive form of brain cancer. They grow and spread rapidly and are really hard to eradicate because of the way that they grow in and through the brain tissue. It's just not a simple solid tumor that can be operated on, removed, and we can move on. There are often many tendrils within the brain that make it almost impossible to get all of the tumor tissue. So it's a really important question to understand how glioblastomas are formed, what they're made of, what cell types are likely to become glioblastomal in nature, and how they even get their start to begin with. And it's been a goal of researchers to try and study glioblastomas in the lab, but it's really hard to do so in living animals. They haven't been able to get tumor tissue, the glioblastoma tissue, taken from human brains to last very long when transplanted into other animals like mice. So they take glioblastoma tissue, they put it into mice brains. It doesn't last very long, so they don't have much time, and it's not the right system for it to exist in. So if it's in a system that's not maintaining it, and in fact it's dying off, that is not the activated form of glioblastoma. So researchers at UCSF used brain organoids, little tiny clumps of brain tissue in dishes in the laboratory, to be able to create glioblastoma cultures in the laboratory. And so now they have been able to develop a system in which they are able to get brain organoids to grow from brain tissue taken from human stem cells. And the tumors, when implanted into the organoids, take to it almost 100% of the time, according to the researchers. They've published their research in Cell Stem Cell to describe it. And they have, and now they've discovered some really interesting things about glioblastomas in their work, such as glioblastomas, unlike a lot of other cancer types, don't appear to originate from one kind of cell. They seem to, there doesn't seem to be a glioblastoma stem cell, for to put it simply, but there are lots of different kinds of seed cells that seem to be involved, and one that looks and behaves a lot like a neuronal stem cell. And these cells, these neuronal stem cells that are actually called Krigsteins, they're a outer radial glia cell, an org cell. These org cells are more numerous in humans and primates than any other mammals. And this might be why they're not maintained well. The tumors aren't maintained well in mouse brains, because those org cells aren't there in the numbers to support the tumor. The cells normally disappear as brains mature, but what this suggests is the org cells are there during development and then they're supposed to go away, but something happens to jumpstart them again in adulthood. The cells show up and glioblastomas are able to form. So there's something going on that has led to a number of new questions, which is always good for research, but has led to a pathway for potentially discovering what makes glioblastomas tick and potentially leading to real treatments for a devastating, deadly disease.
So next time you're at a cocktail party and somebody says, scientists have created tiny brains in dishes, and somebody else says, why would they do that? Now you have the answer.
Now you know why. Yes.
You know why.
Yeah, so we can study brain tumors, but not in brains, because, then you have to chop up brains and stuff. You want living brains, little living brains in cells. Yeah, this is great. This is great work. Go UCSF. Woohoo.
Yeah. The good news is we figured out why you have a brain tumor. The bad news is you're already dead because we had to cut open your head to figure it out.
Or we actually find a cure for cancer in dead tissue. It's not that point. It's too late. Yeah,
you got to do it while they're still alive.
Yeah, they're in living tissue.
Justin, do you have another piece of science for us?
Oh yeah, I did. It's the one that keeps vanishing from my screen. So there's a new round of sort of virus collection that just took place. They went and pulled virus genome out of 1,200 and something insect species. So these researchers, they have been discovering and pooling and collecting through next generation sequencing viruses and classifying them from insects. Now, it's just sort of this is just sort of a beginning of why this is going to be a really interesting story. But we get diseases from viruses that are communicated by animals that we know of. And if somebody is ill, you can put them through a type of screening that will look to see if there's a virus that's affecting them. But the virus itself it's like a little bit of RNA kind of a thing. It's really hard to identify if you don't know what you're looking for. So the screenings that we have identify things from a known list of viruses that are out there. This is going to be what they're doing is cataloging these viruses that they'd not seen before, that they've not known existed, that they're discovering in all these different insects. Will then be able to later be put into the system so that if you go to your doctor with your mystery illness, one of these might pop up. So this is the very beginning stage of being able to perhaps discover illnesses that people get from insects that we didn't know came from insects.
Huh.
So it's pretty fascinating. The other thing is too, they've got all of these different classes. They've got I think they said 20 different categories of family of virus from this, and hundreds of new viruses that were discovered and are being added to the database now. So we are, and this is still scratching the surface of our understanding and our knowledge and our database of viruses that are out there. But this is pretty fascinating stuff. I was looking to see, I've lost who's doing this. The study is really interesting, but this is out
of Berlin.
University of Berlin is who put this together, and they have published in PLOS Pathogens, Public Library of Science Online Pathogens.
I love this. There's so many pathogens that we're aware of. So there's the amoeboid malaria kind of pathogen, and then there's viruses like Zika, or so many emerging diseases. Chagas disease. I guess Chagas disease is. I don't know. There's so many different diseases that are emerging.
Ebola, measles, rabies, all kinds of lung infections. I mean, this is all virus-based stuff. But
measles. But I mean, there's some that we know. It's like if you go to a mosquito area, you might get Zika. These are viruses, things that we know can get transmitted. Yellow fever, or all sorts of things. Stuff like measles is okay. That's person to person contact, and you think of certain diseases, certain viruses in certain ways. And I think what you said really hit it on the head is how many diseases, either unidentified diseases, emerging diseases, or even things that have been around for a while, actually are virus, are insect spread as opposed to person to person. Or
but how did I get that disease? I haven't been around anyone. Well, there was a mosquito in an airplane that came over and got you in the airport. Who knows?
Yeah, and the other things too, we have done a pretty good job of looking for looking at like ticks and
tick diseases,
and mosquitoes and the blood transferring ones. We've been. But there's all kinds of little gnats that people might swallow or end up in our food or something like this that we might never even notice that we have ingested. Or there's a lot of insects that you encounter that you may not be as aware of because they don't.
Those opportunities, when you're riding your bicycle and you inhale a fly.
Yeah, it could have been that cold you got a week later. Could have been actually that. But the whole point is we have to do the part where we identify them first and have them in a database, so when you get screened, it can pop up as a match. Otherwise, it's not going to find. You're not going to go to your doctor's office and they're going to screen and say, "Oh, we discovered an unknown virus that you have." That's not how it's going to happen. It has to already be known and discovered and figured out before the screening process takes place. Otherwise, it will just be noise to the machine.
I'm looking at this though, in a total of 1,200, almost 1,250 insect species. Such a small number compared to how many insects there are on the planet. There's somewhere on the order of just around 3,500 mosquito species around the globe.
Yeah.
I mean, we worry about one mosquito species for malaria. We worry, there are 3,400 mosquito species globally, and here they're looking at 1,200 insect species for this. This database
We
is
got-
going
the
to
one
be
that we have here is-
woefully
The one that we
underpopulated
have
with
here has
information.
the West Nile.
Yeah.
It's a different mosquito, different virus, right? And yeah, exactly. And so this is also with the next generation sequencing, though. They were able to do 1,200 species relatively quickly.
Yeah.
So it's more. I think it takes much longer to collect the bugs
Yeah.
than it does to do the sequencing and the bioinformatics afterwards to see what was in there. So we still need bug
Fascinating.
collectors, entomologists. Get out there and start sending samples to the University of Berlin. We'll let them know
Yeah.
you're going to do it. Don't just.
But I mean, bug apocalypse is happening. So even as we're worried about the insects, we don't have to be worried about the insects.
Oh,
Well,
no,
so
what?
you say this, but yeah, what this is the funny thing is that insects might need to move where they have been living,
Yeah.
and they might have to move someplace like your house.
Yes,
for
bringing
survival,
whatever
whereas they were
virus is with
perfectly happy
them.
outside.
Mhm.
Thanks
Yeah.
for that.
I don't know. This is
Isn't
gonna
the
be
Putting
whole
house
changed.
in a
reason that
bubble.
West Nile is in North America is because of climate change?
Oh, I don't know.
It's allowed for, I'm pretty sure it's
Mm-hmm.
allowed for the mosquitoes to survive in places they didn't before. So
Absolutely.
Mm.
Survive and spread. Oh, joy. Oh, happy joy. But anyway, that's fascinating study. You know what? I think there's a special time in the show that we're at right now. We haven't done it in so long. I kind of, Blair's Animal Corner.
With Blair?
Yeah.
She loves our creatures, great and small. Biped, millipede, no pet at all. You want to hear about animals? She's your girl. Except for giant pandas and squirrels. There's Animal Corner.
What you got, Blair?
Oh, well, as a bit of a change, I have nothing but good news for you today from the Animal Corner.
Yay!
Yes. The first is some amazing news that we have learned from grizzly bears. So we've talked on the show many times about whether or not bears truly hibernate, but they go through a bodily change that is very unusual, and we're not going to contest that. Grizzly bears, they are active starting around March through May. Around September, they start to load up on food. They eat lots and lots and lots of food, build up a good layer of fat. And then sometime between November and January, they go into hibernate or go through winter sleep or torpor or whatever you want to call it. And during that time, their metabolism and their heart rate drop. They do not go to the bathroom. They don't pee or poo. They actually develop a fecal plug, so they don't go to the bathroom at all, so they can kind of recycle nutrients. The amount of nitrogen in their blood increases drastically, and they become resistant to the hormone insulin. So as all this is going on, they are sleeping for months. If a human did nothing but lay in one position for months and months, they would have some problems. There would be a lot of problems. One of them in particular is the atrophying of muscles. So if anyone's ever had an arm or a leg in a cast for a few weeks or been bedridden for any substantial amount of time, you may have experienced atrophy when your muscles don't work the way that they did. You lose kind of muscle mass. So a team of researchers from the Neuromuscular and Cardiovascular Cell Biology Group at Max Delbrück Center for Molecular Medicine in Berlin looked at how bear muscles manage to survive hibernation virtually unharmed. They might be a little wobbly when they first come out, but other than that, their muscles have not degraded and they do not show signs of atrophy. So how is this happening? And which genes are transcribed in the muscle cells and converted into proteins, and what effect does this have on those muscle cells, and can this be applied to humans? That's really the ultimate question. If they can better understand what's happening in these bear muscles, they could potentially develop non-intuitive methods, some new methods to better prevent and treat muscle atrophy in human patients. So they examined muscle samples from grizzly bears during and between the times of hibernation, so not during hibernation, and they were all from Washington State University. They looked at sequencing techniques with mass spectrometry, and they wanted to see which genes and proteins are upregulated or shut down during and between the times of hibernation. So what's going on in proteins and what's going on in the genes that code for those proteins during these different stages for these bears. They then compared those findings with observations in human, mice, and nematode worms. They found that proteins in their experiments influenced a bear's amino acid metabolism during hibernation, which means the muscle cells had higher amounts of a very specific group of non-essential amino acids, NEAAs. In experiments with isolated muscle cells of human and mice that had atrophy, cell growth could also be stimulated by the non-essential amino acids. But they know from earlier studies that just administering the same non-essential amino acids in the form of pills or powders doesn't prevent atrophy. So there's something interesting going on here. What they think is that it's important for the muscles themselves internally to produce the amino acids, or they don't go where they need to prevent the atrophy. So, knowing this, they could use the genetic cues that they found to induce human muscle to produce the non-essential amino acids themselves by activating those metabolic pathways during long rest periods. So then they had to do a whole separate issue, research item with the tissue samples to find the signaling pathways in the muscles of the grizzly bears, humans, and mice. And then they looked at that in elderly bedridden patients, human patients, and mice suffering from muscle atrophy. How do you do that? Well, you put a plaster cast on a mouse so they can't move that muscle. So just visualize that for a minute. Okay, moving on.
Crutches.
Yeah, exactly.
Poor little mice.
Yeah. For science, though. So they were able to find which genes are regulated differently between animals that hibernate and those that do not. And then could actually look at that in nematode worms. So because nematode worms are more simple genetically, they could actually narrow it down in the nematode worms down to individual genes that could be deactivated easily in order to adjust this muscle growth and the stimulation of non-essential amino acids. So basically, this isn't ready for human use yet.
It's ready for nematodes.
It's ready for nematodes. So we are many steps away. However, this is a huge breakthrough. We had no idea how bears could keep from having this kind of degradation in their muscles. They're sleeping for months. But knowing that there's a particular metabolic pathway, there are particular genes that can turn on that metabolic pathway, and that can release the kind of the chemical signals to maintain muscle, those non-essential amino acids. This could be a pretty big deal in human healthcare.
Mm-hmm.
Just
a
think
very
about
big deal. Mm-hmm.
I mean, on one side, you have people who, I don't know, broke their legs skiing. And yes, it would be nice if they didn't have to go through PT. But I'm thinking more about especially elderly people who are sick in some way, but otherwise could have bounced back and got many good years left out of their legs or their arms or their body in general. But because of the setback of being bedridden for some time, they just never get it back.
Yep.
Wouldn't it be great if after you got over that pneumonia, you could pop back up and be an active human again?
It would be pretty amazing. Yeah. And for diseases that we are finding new treatments for that can potentially help people with movement disorders. My mom had multiple sclerosis and became bedridden, and she was bedridden so long that her tendons shortened, her muscles atrophied, and by the time that she got to a point where there were medications that could possibly help her a little bit, and she could get physical therapy, it was too late. She couldn't straighten her legs ever again. It was too late. So, this stuff, if this kind of thing had been around, it could have changed so much for my mom. I can see how that would have been a big impact. Not just and beyond people who have movement disorders, who are bedridden for whatever reason, for people who are in comas, people additionally, think into the future and in the fun aspect of it, to maybe people who go to space.
So yeah, that's the
I think
one.
that might be
because
interesting.
I didn't even think
That's
about
where-
that.
That's a huge atrophy problem for limited times in space, even which hugely limits the amount of time a human should be
Can be
in space.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wow. Yeah, that is such a good point. Well, thanks,
And they always
Grizzly
show.
Bears.
They always
Thanks,
show
Grizzly
in all
Bears.
kinds of sci-fi where they're like, "Man, are we gonna just like zip everywhere faster than the speed of light?" No, we're gonna do a little hard science. We're gonna put everybody in a little sleeping chamber, and they're gonna wake up on the other side of the galaxy.
Totally
And
refreshed
this
and fine.
would be the thing that makes that happen.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah.
We learned it from bears. And can't bears also why aren't we studying bears more for bears? Like if there's a patch of fur missing,
Yep.
the patch of fur comes back.
Oh, that's being studied. Yeah, that's being pretty extensively studied. The amazing healing qualities of hibernation.
Yeah. And maybe this is the thing that cures baldness, which as we know is such a horrible disease. It's affecting. I got plugs. Obviously, you can't
Bear
see
plugs?
them.
Obviously.
Bear plugs.
But yeah.
Bear fecal plugs.
No, they're not bear plugs.
Okay.
Don't have one of those.
Anyway,
I think we should send
speaking-
bears to space. But anyway, moving forward.
I mean, I would love to see that. They'd look adorable.
They would.
Speaking of fecal plugs, this is a study specifically for Justin. It is about bird and bat guts and their microbiome.
Yeah.
Cool.
It turns out, this is from UC San Diego, that bird and bat guts are very similar in the fact that they are extremely dissimilar. Let me explain.
Justin's working on that one.
So is
Yeah.
it birds of a feather not pooping the same together? Is it of a community? They're diverse within like this bird population. There's a lot of diversity within that bat population. There's a lot of diversity.
I'm going to back up. So
Okay.
UC San Diego compared the microbiomes of 900 vertebrate species. This is a pretty large comparative study. And we usually see some sort of evolutionary pathway in the microbiome. If you see an animal's gut microbiome, you can guess that a relative, a closely related species, will have similar species of gut flora going on.
And this is maybe because they are digesting the same types of foods because they have similar diets.
It could be that. It could be that the microbiome is evolving alongside these animals
A
over
little symbiotic going on.
there's all sorts of potential theories there, but generally speaking, we know related species tend to have similar microbiomes. But we also know that birds are weirdos. Kiki, can you confirm? Yes.
I can confirm.
So birds are weirdos in this case because their microbiome does not appear to follow any evolutionary pathway. They're kind of all over the place. There is a lack of similarity between related birds in their microbiome. So that's weird. But this is where it gets interesting. The same goes for bats. So
But they eat different food? No.
Yes. They eat
Hmm.
very different foods. A lot of them live in different areas. They're just not, there doesn't appear to be any specific relationship with microbes and evolutionary history in either of these big groups, bats or birds.
Huh. Interesting.
So what they have in common is their dissimilarity amongst their group. So why is this? What we can see is that something about flight, most likely, messes with the microbiome ancestry. So there's a bunch of theories as to why that could be, and we could talk about that all day. But the main implication here is that perhaps a specific tailored microbial balance is not as critical as we thought generally in normal digestion. So this could mean that the flight actually has an effect on the microbiome, making it less essential, or it could be that this is just raising the fact that being a flying animal, they had a different strategy with their microbiome, and so it's actually ultimately what we're finding out is that it's not as critical as we thought it was. So what evolutionary pressures are influencing these microbial communities to be so dissimilar? Or more likely, what I thought was really interesting is that when we think about what the weight of our gut is consisted of, actually a lot of it is microbes and the food that we feed our microbes and the byproducts of the microbes. And because flying animals so often, no pun intended, they end up having less general weight of microbiota on them. And that also means there's more turnover of the microbiome. So it's possible that just a function of having to weigh less creates less consistency in the microbiome. But then it does kind of ask this question of chicken and egg of, is it necessary, but they figured out how not to have it? Or it's not necessary, but everybody had it because it was easy to have it.
Yeah, so maybe it's efficient if you don't need to fly. It's maybe a better efficiency of digestion if you don't need to lose it all for flight. The other thing I was also thinking though, then, and these are being flyers. They also can leave areas where their excrement is rather easily.
Mm-hmm.
And that there may have a little further away relationship than most creatures. Humans, we kind of, even though we have what we think is a very sanitary environment that we've created with the way that we handle our own waste, we have hands. So we touch everything. And we use our hands, we touch ourselves, eventually our hands end up in our faces. We're touching ourselves. Birds don't have hands. Bats kind of do, though, don't they? Yeah. So that's
their wings are their hands, but maybe, I mean, how do bats clean themselves? Is it similar to the way birds preen?
I picture them as being like cats, like licking. I don't know if a bat ever does that. But,
They're putting they're licking themselves. So maybe that has something to do with it. Maybe it's not the food, maybe it's not the flying per se, but maybe it's the body design that influences how they keep themselves clean. That has something to do with it. But who knows?
Yeah, I also think that I'd be interested to see if they saw this same pattern in migrating marine mammals.
Ooh.
Because I think about what all these animals have in common. There are a lot of migrating birds, a lot, which means you're covering sometimes half of the planet in a year. So your environment is much larger. So you could see how so basically birds poop.
Do bats migrate
all the time, right?
All the time, yeah.
So if you're pooping all the time to maintain a low body weight, then you probably are dumping a lot of bacteria all the time. So you could see some turnover because it's not staying in your gut as long. They process their food so fast. You wouldn't need as much of a microbiome if you're not processing most of the food if you're just dumping
Yeah,
constantly.
Larry Cox in the
Yeah.
chat room has the key to all this. So we just gotta look at some flightless birds.
Mm-hmm,
There it is.
Yeah. And I don't think there are any migrating bats, but I could be totally wrong about that.
Yeah. Maybe I don't remember, but I mean, they have their caves that they like to stay in. Yeah, I don't know if they do migrate, but I think that's an interesting perspective. There's some interesting questions here.
Larry's got it.
Oh,
That's
so
what I'm-
Google is telling me that some bats do, in fact,
Yeah.
migrate. There you go.
All right, let's cut open a kiwi and find out.
No, I don't think
what's
you have
going
to
on
cut
there.
them open.
Not that one. Do an ostrich.
If there are any, I don't know what's happened.
There's ostriches. There's ostriches.
People
Hey,
farm
don't you have a couple
ostriches.
extras at the zoo?
Not extras, no.
Can we do?
But I wonder if their eggs would have a reflection of their microbiome. So we could pop open an ostrich egg,
I don't know.
swab the outside when it comes out.
You'd swab the outside.
They have
yeah.
a cloaca, so it's all
Swab
the same.
outside.
Mm.
Not inside the egg, but outside the egg.
Outside the egg. There
Yeah.
you go. Anyway, so the bird and bat microbiome, similarly, completely dissimilar.
That's wonderful. I think this opened up more questions, which I always love.
Mhm.
Blair, I have an Animal Corner present for you.
Oh, you do?
I do. For your love of cephalopods.
I'm a cephal enthusiast.
You're a cephal enthusiast. There's a story out this week about cuttlefish in glasses.
No.
Yes, researchers interested in how cuttlefish use vision to hunt their prey decided they needed to find out whether or not cuttlefish have stereo vision like humans and also like mantis shrimp. And the way that they decided to do this was to glue some 3D glasses onto the cuttlefish head. The 3D glasses allow different images to reach each eye independently, and so they could control images that were sent to the fish. And they trained the cuttlefish then to attack targets on a screen, and then they adjusted how those images looked and then looked to see whether or not the cuttlefish were on target or off target. And pretty immediately they found that cuttlefish have stereopsis, or this stereo vision that allows them to be able to perceive depth in a similar manner to how humans do. However, it's an intermediate between humans and the other stereo vision organisms who seem to need to use attack and can't chase their prey, but need to be more accurate, and so are able to also incorporate spatial alterations as well. So brightness versus depth, and there's some or color, and so there are very interesting aspects to this stereo vision. But cuttlefish have stereo vision. And now they look like they're in an 80s video.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I hope they showed them a nice 3D film afterwards. Gosh, that's awesome. I love how they had their two tentacles up. Like, why is it different colors?
Hi, I don't understand. Which one? How do I attack it? But yes. And they also found that not all cuttlefish will put up with having 3D glasses glued to their heads.
Not all
Only-
humans will either.
No, a very small percentage of cuttlefish actually are conducive to, I guess, 3D movies. I don't know. I don't like going to 3D movies. I'm one of those people.
It doesn't work on my. I like it does.
Gives you a headache.
It doesn't. Yeah.
I'm like, it's too much. I don't know. Too much going on. Anyway, cuttlefish
Oh my
in
gosh.
glasses. It's
I love
very
it.
exciting. Cute
Ooh.
cuttlefish swimming around, attacking things, sometimes missing. But anyway. Also, okay, researchers looking at spaghetti That's right. They looked at
Mhm.
spaghetti.
For lunch.
For science.
Okay.
Yes, mechanical engineers from UC Berkeley decided that they needed to know exactly how to describe what happens to a spaghetti noodle as it cooks mathematically. And so they looked at spaghetti as it cooked and watched it curl, and they came up with various factors, parameters to include in their equation. And they have some assumptions like, oh, the noodles aren't going to stick to the pan as they're cooked, and their factors, the parameters they added are gravity, density, changes in elasticity as the noodles absorb water. And voila, they have cooked a mathematical model that predicts how the spaghetti noodle will look as it is cooked.
I mean, it's not that different from protein folding, right? It's actually kind of similar,
Very similar. Yes.
which we have models for that, so can't be that different.
So the interesting aspect of the spaghetti noodles is, it's predictable in the way that it is hard and straight before it goes into the pot of water, and then as it absorbs water, it begins to bend and become more elastic until it gets to the perfect al dente state in which it will have curled up some. And it is now described mathematically.
Good.
I believe this.
Is the
I
math
think
group running out of things to model?
no.
Have they really gotten everything else done that was on the list of things
Next.
that needed to be?
Croissant.
Croissant, the perfect flaky croissant. That's all right. Yes, pasta noodles. It's very important. And finally, researchers from Trinity College in London have published in the Proceedings of the Royal Society B on their study of killifish in Trinidad. One population of fish live in a river downstream that is full of predators. Another population live upstream where there are no predators. They caught these fish, brought them back to the lab, and looked at their brains, as you do. And they wanted to see what the difference is between their brains. They determined that the more predators there are,
Bigger brains?
bigger brains,
Yeah.
more brain cells. And not just bigger as in cell size is bigger, but more brain cells. So predators lead to brain needing to process more information and needing more cells to take in the environment and to process what needs to happen. Yeah, you got it. Predators probably led to the evolution of humans.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's it for my
Yeah.
studies. Anybody have anything else for the hour or two?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, I think we had a full show already. We'll have to, we've got another show coming up very soon, a live show, which may or may not be live streamed. We always have the little asterisks at Calicut. I think it worked well one year.
Yeah.
And then maybe there were difficulties on another year. Is this what I'm remembering? Is this correct?
It's
Yeah,
it's
but-
because it's usually the Wi-Fi that the 2,000 people also at the event are using.
And this is actually our
Exactly.
fourth time. Our fourth time at Calicut.
Third, I think
time.
it's third
Third time at
It's
Cal
the
Academy.
fourth time.
because we didn't do it last year.
No, this is the third Sketchfest.
Uh-huh.
But we did Cal Academy once before then. Too.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
I had
That's fun.
forgotten about that. Thank you for
Yeah.
reminding me. Oh my goodness. Yes. So Sketchfest, we will be back next week, January 16th, Thursday night at Nightlife at the Cal Academy. You can buy tickets at sfsketchfest.com. Search the schedule, look for either This Week in Science or for look on the date for the Cal Academy Nightlife event announcement. And you should be able to find tickets. Pretty seamless situation there. I can't wait. I love Cal Academy. And I always love coming back to San Francisco. I feel like it's like home turf almost. Now I have 2 home turfs. I've got Portland and San Francisco. Home
Oh,
turf. Yeah. Gonna make it. We're gonna have fun. I want to hear people. We're gonna have a good time. We have come to the end of the show once again. This is our first show of the new year, and I think it's off to a fabulous start. Thanks, Blair and Justin, for a great show. Thanks for bringing it.
Yeah.
Our
So
pleasure
fun
as always. If I may
Go
speak
ahead.
for both of us, Justin.
Yeah, go ahead. I wasn't saying it. But yeah, it's always fun to be doing the show. And we've got a whole new decade to do it in. This is excellent. It's like a fresh
Clean
canvas
slate.
of
Yeah.
new clean slate. All the past is forgiven. We can
Whatever
now
we
go
did
on without
before.
the record. The priors have been hit.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a whole new decade to look forward to hearing what comes from our scientific community.
Yeah, we probably should have done a prediction of what's going to happen by the end of the decade.
Mm.
I predict self-driving cars will be commonplace by the end of the decade. I predict artificial intelligence will be advanced, but we're still not going to be seeing it taking over the world.
I predict that it will take over the world. We just won't be seeing it.
Oh,
I predict there will be fully integrated mechanical prosthetic limbs. In with
ooh,
the
I
brain.
like yes.
Yeah.
Brain-computer interfaces are going
Yes.
to they're going to go places in a decade. Yes.
Yeah.
You are right there. That will take off. I mean, yes. The basics, and then with companies like Neuralink getting in on it, yes, it's gonna go places. Oh yeah. 10 years
Oh,
from now. It's
And
hard
I'll
to
throw an
even-
Animal Corner one in there. I predict that we will be able to IVF something that has gone extinct.
Yeah.
Mastodon?
Yeah.
Or maybe
Mammoth?
just like a rhino or something
A
more recent.
mammoth?
But something that has gone fully extinct, we will be able to raise as IVF in a related species.
Identity 4 predicts a supernova. Come on, supernova.
Oof.
What? Shubrew in the chat room predicts laser printed organs. Ooh, bioprinting. Yes.
Mhm.
Maybe we will have gotten over that regenerative medicine issue of 3-dimensional organs and being able to print them. That 10 years.
Yep.
You know, the amazing thing, 5 years, it's like, I don't think it's kind of like, okay,
right
things
around the
will
corner.
happen, but it'll be fine. 10 years down the road, technology can change enough that it can make a huge difference. I mean, things like the iPad, smartphones, you know, those are things that were not really something you could predict at the beginning of one decade to the end of the next. And so, and they're things that changed the world. And maybe there are technologies that are being worked on that we don't really know about at this point. You know, somewhere in Shenzhen in China, or in what is the area in Japan where it's all the techie stuff in Japan, but and maybe these things will be coming in a decade that will change.
So what's also interesting, I think, is that the tools are already here for a lot of this.
Yes.
But utilization, understanding how to, like CRISPR is a tool, is a technology
gosh. And-
that we are several steps away from knowing how to use. This is the CRISPR is as a tool is like giving a laptop to one of those geoengineers a million years ago who were chipping. So we just invented a tool that we absolutely don't understand how best to implement. We're still catching up with the knowledge base required to use this tool efficiently to do things. The tool will continue to be used. A version of this tool will continue to be used for decades to come as we discover how to apply it. Because we still are a few layers away from understanding all the interactions in biotech and in organism in engineering what we want a thing to do. So it's really exciting, and it's funny how these things sort of happen once in a while. One of the interesting ones to me was always how we got satellite television was more places in the world than cable. Cable is running a cord from one device to the next. We went up to space and had satellites and people were putting satellite dishes out in their yards to watch it. We had this like huge leap in technology ahead of what would be the sort of obvious little baby step towards. And we had that with CRISPR. We had this huge leap of technology, and now we're doing all these baby steps to figure out how to use it.
Right. And, and maybe that's what it is. It's 2 steps forward, 1 step back, and then a big jump, a jump ahead. Maybe it's a really interesting game of hopscotch. CRISPR is going to be big. Stem cells are going to have, a huge impact. It's going to be, And Larry Cox is saying that Kai will be driving. But maybe if self-driving cars are big in 10 years, he won't be.
Yeah, maybe not.
Who knows? I mean, we'll see. I'm looking forward to, in 10 years, massive electrification, sustainable energies booming around the globe. And so electric cars increasing in number. Yeah. So much to see in 10 years. And we're going to be going to the moon. I bet you.
Yeah, the 3 of us.
That's right. TWIS in space.
2.
Yeah.
2 of you. 2 of you.
Come on, Justin.
And my avatar.
Ground control.
My AI avatar.
Oh, yeah.
Justin
hologram.
Justin will be our ground control, right?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Okay, let's end
Everybody's
this show.
still safe down here. How's everybody up there feeling?
Great.
Good.
Absolutely great.
How's the view? Is it like the picture that you could?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like that. It's just like watching a picture.
It looks like the end. It looks like
instead
the
of
end.
instead of a
this
screen,
is the end. Everyone.
Instead of a screen, it's out a window.
It's out a window. Out a window. I hope you all are having a wonderful, wonderful moment in time. Because really, as Justin says so many times, the moment in which you can do is now.
That's
so
right.
enjoy your moment. Enjoy your moment. Look to the past, look to the future, but now is where we all are. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Fada, for helping with social media, show notes, and getting the word out for everything. Thank you so much. Identity4, thank you for recording the show. Gord, thank you for your help in the TWIS chat room. And thank you. Gosh darn it, I had a whole show to figure this out, and of course I didn't open the page. I gotta be able to say the words. I gotta log into Patreon. Hold on a second, everyone.
That's worth it.
Hit the button for the Patreons. Go to the page so I can see the list.
Hey, Blair. How does somebody get tickets to the SF Sketchfest that's coming?
Oh, go to sfsketchfest.com or Google SF Sketchfest, Cal Academy Nightlife, or go to calacademy.org and click on Nightlife and select January 16th. There's so many ways to do it. You can also just Google it or go to twis.org.
Oh, very good.
I would love to thank our Patreon sponsors. Thank you. Paul Disney, Ed Dyer, Andrew Swanson, Craig Landon, Ed Stu Pollock, Philip Shane, Ken Hayes, Harrison Prather, Charlene Henry, Joshua Fury, Steve DeBell, Alex Wilson, Tony Steele, Richard Porter, Mark Manzaros, Bob Calder, Jack Matthew Litwin, Jason Roberts, Bill K., Eric Knapp, Richard, Brian Condren, Dave Neighbor, Justin Taylor P.S., Josiah Zahner, Howard Tan, Donald Mundis, Sarah Forfar, Dan Cabe, Matt Bass, Darwin Hannon, Patrick Pecoraro, Ben Bignell, Gene Tellier, John Gridley, Corinne Benton, Adam LaJoy, Sarah Chavis, Rodney Lewis, Tiffany Boyd, Mountain Sloth, Seth O'Gradney, Stephen Alvaron, John Ratnaswamy, Dave Friedel, Daryl Myshak, Paul Ronovich, Sue Doster, Dave Wilkinson, Noodles, Kevin Reardon, Christoph Zuckenreck, Ashish Pants, Ulysses Adkins, Artyom, Rick Ray, Miss Paul, John McKee, Jason Olds, Brian Carrington, Christopher Dreyer, Lisa Suzuki, Jim Trapo, Greg Riley, Sean Lamb, Steve Leisman, Kurt Larson, Rudy Garcia, Marjorie, Gary S., Robert, Greg Briggs, Brendan Minish, Christopher Rappin, Flying Out, Aaron Luthen, Matt Sutter, Mark Hessenflow, Kevin Parachan, Byron Lee, and E.O. Thank you for your support on Patreon. And if you would like to make the list of Patreons that I read longer, you can find information at This Week in Science, click on the Patreon link. On next week's show, we'll be at SF Sketchfest. Yes, January 16th. We will be live at California Academy Sciences Nightlife event. You can find information at TWIS.org. Once again, we'll be broadcasting live online at 8 p.m. Pacific time if we are able. We don't know if we will have an internet connection to be able to do so at the moment, but you can find it.
Is my math right? That's going to be a Thursday, not a Wednesday?
It's a Thursday, not a Wednesday. If you have a TWIS calendar, you will see that next week's Wednesday night has been transferred to Thursday. It's just a little blip in the matrix, as we say. You can watch and join everyone in the chat room at twis.org/live if we are able to broadcast live. Don't worry if you can't make it, and if we aren't able to broadcast live, we are recording the show, and we will have the episode available at twis.org.
Yes. Thank you for enjoying this show. TWIS is always available as a podcast. Just Google This Week in Science in your iTunes directory. Or if you enjoyed this show, you could just tell somebody about it, and then they could Google it, and then they would have it as well.
For more information on anything you've heard here today, show notes are available on our website. You haven't heard it at this point, you just weren't listening. It's www.twis.org. While you're there, there's lots of things you can do. Click around while you're over there. You can make comments. You can start conversations with us, the hosts, and other listeners.
Or you can contact us directly. Email Kirsten at thisweekinscience.com, Justin at twistminion@gmail.com, or Blair at blairbaz@twist.org. Just be sure to put TWIS, TWIS, somewhere in the subject line. Otherwise, your email will get spam filtered into oblivion. You can also hit us up on the Twitter where we are at TWIS Science, at Dr. Kiki, at JacksonFly, and at Blair's Menagerie. We love your feedback. If there's a topic you'd like us to cover or address, a suggestion for an interview, a haiku that comes to you in the night, please let us know.
We'll be back here next week on Thursday, live. And we hope you'll join us again for more great science news.
Yes, and if you've learned anything from the show, remember,
it's all in your head.
This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science, it's the end of the world. So I'm setting up shop, got my banner unfurled. It says the scientist is in, I'm gonna sell my advice. Show them how to stop the robots with a simple device. I'll reverse global warming with a wave of my hand. And all it'll cost you is a couple of grand. 'Cause this week's science is coming your way. So everybody listen to what I say. I use the scientific method for all that it's worth, and I'll broadcast my opinion all over the earth. 'Cause it's This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. 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 This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. 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 I've got one disclaimer, and it shouldn't be news, that what I say may not represent your views, but I've done the calculations and I've got a plan. If you listen to the science, you may just yet understand that we're not trying to threaten your philosophy. We're just trying to save the world from jeopardy. Jeopardy. And This Week in Science is coming your way. So everybody listen to everything we say, and if you use our method instead of rolling a die, we may rid the world of toxoplasma gondii. 'Cause it's This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. 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 This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. 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 Got a laundry list of items I want to address, from stopping global hunger to dredging Loch Ness.
I'm trying to promote more rational thought, and I'll try to answer any question you've got. But how can I ever see the changes I seek when I can only set up shop 1 hour a week? This Week in Science is coming your way. You better just listen to what we say, and if you've learned anything from the words that we said, then please just remember it's all in your head. 'Cause it's This Week in Science, This Week in Science, This Week in Science, 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 This Week in Science, This Week in Science, This Week in Science, 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 This Week in 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 Science.
I like the big gong at the end of that song.
I love the
really
gong
cool.
at the end. It's just perfect. It is. Noodles, it's true. I feel like we blew through 2019 and it just happened. It just went pew. Who knows how 2020 will be? I don't know. I don't know. It's anybody's guess. I mean, really, the state of the world these days. Furthermore,
It's always the state of the world. It's the same world. It's the same state.
I know. It's populated with humans and
That's the problem, and it's also the nice thing about it. It's
human populated.
people.
The end of the show. Oh, I'll bring Blair back. She's back.
Hello, I'm back.
Hello. Hello. Blair, I can
Mhm.
bring 5 calendars to you
Yay!
next week. Justin, I will bring you your calendar next week. We are left with like 2 extras. It's awesome. Everybody, thank
Yay.
you for ordering calendars. Blair for making an amazing calendar this year.
Yeah, I think it turned out good.
Yeah, it's fantastic. We have a few small number of patrons we need to send framed artwork
I
to.
was wondering about that.
Yeah,
Fun.
we have a few of those. So I can send you those names and you can, I don't know if you want to just randomly send them. Choice pieces, let them choose.
Okay, I'll think about it. I have to figure out the mounting as well.
Yeah.
I haven't fully figured that out yet. Because here's the thing. Here's my dilemma. If I go with a nice frame, which I do want to do, I'd use like a floating frame, right? Because then you could use the see-through element of it. But how do you mount a frame on a window? For like stained glass, right? Otherwise, you can go with a cheaper frame that's like the top and bottom like scroll pieces.
Yeah.
And that you can mount on a window fairly easy with like a suction cup or something. But then there's no sort of protection for the art.
Mm-hmm. There's gotta be I hear bye, I see her Sadie.
Yeah.
Yeah, puppy dog.
That was a yawn.
We'll keep looking. We'll keep looking.
Look at her, she's
we will
growing.
find Organoid Gorge. Hello, sweetie.
They're so much bigger than the last time you were on the show.
Oh
Huh.
my goodness. Oh my god, she's adorable.
I just saw a fox.
Yeah.
Yesterday.
Where are you?
So, where I was at a castle.
You were okay. You're in
in
a very
California.
neat looking. I'm gonna open up your screen because you are in a place with like what looks like some cool artwork and a lot of neat stuff.
This
What
is
is
a Airbnb of an art professor.
Of an art
named David.
professor.
But I saw this is a very interesting thing. So I was at the Hearst Castle yesterday. Yeah, yesterday. And After taking the tour of the castle, which is very interesting if you haven't ever seen it, it's one of those very interesting things that you can do in half an afternoon. But when he came out, it's kind of interesting. He had his own zoo. This is a newspaper magnate who created this, giant hilltop castle on massive acreage where he used to have free roaming kangaroos, giraffes, ostriches,
Yeah.
all sorts of things running around. But it is still very wild to an extent. It's never been developed, and there's not people that are allowed to go, off-roading vehicling or anything like this on most of this land. There was a fox on a hedge. Now, I can't really explain this other than the fox, like a bird might land on a hedge. This fox was on top of the hedge eating berries in the hedge. It's the weirdest looking thing because I never thought like a fox was like that light on its feet. Like a squirrel maybe could be running atop of a hedge, and I might like, oh, that's squirrels can do that. Fox is like big. It's like the size of your corgi there.
Oh, bigger.
On top of this thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was very cool. It was didn't seem too concerned with the fact that we were like 10 feet away. Didn't care.
Foxes
Could've
are
been
so
rough.
cool.
They're smart.
They're so
know what's
cool. Yeah. Sounds like you're having some cool travels. California travels.
Yeah, I went to. There's an art installation in Paso Robles called Field of Lights, which was really pretty cool. Somebody took a big field
Build it with lights.
and filled it full of lights.
Oh,
And
cool.
once it seems like okay, it's just like electronic show or something. But once you're like walking in it, it's very immersive, and it felt very like this very alien thing. And then a collection of different artists doing this different types of playing with light at night, and was going on. Went to the final show of, I think it was called Enchanted, and somewhere near Glendale, I think. So yeah, did some art installation traveling, and then went and something pretty amazing here in the city of Davis, actually, right before we went, which was Second Byte, which is, I don't know if it's like 200 Apple computers
Whoa.
that are rotating images of just women, of just different women in history and current and times, and just to this sort of sounding music. But it's, you walk in, you sit down, and you're just surrounded by all of these, and it's
That's
got this
cool.
sort of Apple theme to it as well. It's very very cool exhibit going on I think it's every Thursday for the next few months here in the city of Davis.
That's nice. Okay, so Identity 4 was asking about the AAAS Seattle meeting. We are going to be broadcasting at we're going to be doing a couple of shows Friday and Saturday at the AAAS, American Association for the Advancement of Science National Meeting in Seattle, Washington, February 14th and 15th. That's the Friday and the Saturday. And he was asking if he needed to be a AAAS member or if he could come see us. And let me get you in. I'm trying to look up information because I think this will answer a few people's questions. In that, I think what's happening is it's considered an expo event, but I don't know if that will be open. I have to find out if that will be open to the.
Why are you talking so much? Why are you so talkative? You're doing a lot of whining.
Kiki,
That-
Kiki, Unless you're just mumbling to yourself, your microphone is off. Unless you're just thinking to yourself and not actually saying words, your microphone is muted. Yeah, it's muted. Blair,
Yes.
you can still hear me. Can you hear Kiki?
No.
She's been talking for a while.
Oh.
She's still talking. She hasn't paid attention to the fact
words with this one.
that we have not. She obviously doesn't have us on the screen, so she can't see that our mouths are moving.
Can't tell.
We can't hear you, Kiki.
Can't hear you.
There we go. No. It's a really difficult thing when someone can't hear you and is reading something to you because they're not watching your.
Hi.
Hi, we can hear you now.
Ah. How much did you hear?
None.
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 Yeah.
Oh my god.
And I was trying to tell you that we couldn't hear you, but then I
I was
realized you
looking
were
at a
reading
different-
something to us.
I was looking at a
And-
different screen.
Mhm.
I'm searching. I wasn't reading. I was looking for a different screen. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Yeah, so anyway, Identity 4, we got nothing. Identity 4 wanted to know whether or not he would have to pay or become a member of AAAS to come see us at the AAAS annual meeting in Seattle, Washington, February 13th through 16th. We're going to be broadcasting the 14th and the 15th. And so I was basically saying I need to figure that out. It is part of what is considered expo events, but I haven't found it online yet whether or not the expo events are considered public. Because if they are, ta-da! Come on in. But if they're not, well, we'll have to find. We'll have to find a different way to be able to see you. There is talk about a podcasters hangout on Friday night. They haven't given a location yet, but it is a possibility that podcasters who are podcasting at the event may be meeting up. So there might be multiple podcasters in one place. Yes. In one evening.
Regardless whether or not people can get into the show, I think
we
we
have to
should.
figure
We
it
will
out.
be announcing sometime after the show to hang out at some sort of beverage.
Totally.
type
Yeah.
facility.
So I have I am multitasking this meeting like a crazy person. I'm doing TWIS, and then on Sunday I'm also doing I'm on a couple of panels for Science Talk. So I'm doing a whole bunch of stuff during the whole weekend. But yes, I want to hang out a bit, but I also have to be like, I'm a professional.
Mhm.
I will be a professional. Identity, if you just want to say hi, we can definitely meet and say hi for sure. We will, if beyond the podcaster meetup, we'll probably set a place and a time after our show, or either on Friday or Saturday, or maybe even both days, to say, hey, meet us here. So it'll be good. It'll be good. Ed wants you back on DTNS, Blair.
Well, I'd love to do it. Problem is, I pretty much have to take a day off work every time I do it because they film at 2:00.
Yeah, that's right.
So, but yeah, if they invite me, I'm sure I'll find a time to go back on. It's very fun. It's definitely
Very fun.
it's a very different experience, since they'll ask me questions and I'll go, I don't know what you're talking about, because I'm not very well plugged into the whole tech thing. But we talk about things that I do know about, and that's fun. anyway.
Yeah, I don't know. You seem to be plugged into the brain computer interfaces and the self-driving cars.
Yeah.
These are things you're paying attention to, I can tell.
Yes. For specific reasons.
Self-preservation.
Yes. Yes.
Pertinent question, have you perfected the bagel dog?
Yes.
Yes.
I don't know perfected, but I executed it successfully.
Said good enough.
Yeah.
Good enough.
I think it turned out pretty good. I think my biggest problem is that I don't think dough rises in my apartment and in this area the same way it does in other places.
I thought San
Wait,
Francisco,
what?
land of the sourdough. What?
Yeah,
Yes,
sourdough bread.
no, but that's a very specific kind of bread. So the sourdough
yes, true.
thrives on moisture, but
Maybe you need to make a sourdough bagel dog.
yeah, I would love that. Most dough, I feel like it's supposed to be dry and kind of warm.
No.
Yeah,
No.
that's what proving drawers do. They make it dry and warm.
I specifically, whenever I make bread, I actually add ice, a big pan of ice, to under the bread to keep it very high in the oven to get big
in the
rising.
oven. No, but that in the oven that gives you the crust. Is the pan of? I'm talking about the rising when bread
Yeah.
rises, not in the
You
oven.
just got to be nice to your
Not
yeast.
in the oven.
Are
when
you
it's-
kneading it and letting it sit for a while? Are you
Yes.
treating your yeast right?
Yes, but proving drawers, which accelerate the rising process, are dry and warm. That's the whole deal.
So if you try, can you put the salve? What do you call it? You put it in a bowl. You can put the thing over the top. You just put a towel over the top.
Yes, Justin, but also Davis, for example, is drier and warmer than Daly City.
Yeah. Okay.
So
It's true.
it's just it's a whole thing. And I think that
Okay.
so I've recognized that, for example, if you wait too long, if the bread isn't rising and you're giving it more and more time and more time, it's done. It reaches a point of no return where like it gets kind of a skin on it if you let it rise too long. So there's all sorts of issues. So
Yeah, but then
you
you
have
knock
to
it down, you reheat it, and you leave it alone again. It'll be fine.
Justin, yes, I understand the theory. I'm telling you that my apartment is really, really cold and the air is so wet here from like fog that it messes with the rising process.
Have you ever tried putting it in the oven and letting it rise in there?
I could let it rise in the oven and I have
There
not
we
yet done that.
That'll do it.
So
And have it preheated. It doesn't have to be hot in there, but have it warmed ahead of time a little bit, and then off, obviously, and then set it in there. It's a nice, dry, little warm location, and it'll be fine.
mhm. Yeah, I could definitely do that. I've adjusted my my amounts of yeast and how much I feed it and stuff like that. But
You're a regular bread scientist.
yes, exactly. This is why I like baking, because it is exactly measured and then you adjust your measurements based on performance. That's like, I love that about baking.
I like cooking regular food because I can just go and like throw things in. I'm
Yeah,
like,
that's
how
also
about a little
fun.
bit of that? How about a little bit of that? And I like throwing it in. And then I'm like, do I like that flavor? No. I'm going to add a little bit of that. And then, yeah.
See, what I don't like
I
about
like the
that,
messy.
though,
I like the messiness of making things up.
my thing about that is that every once in a while I'll make a thing and it'll just be so good and I won't know why. And I won't be able to replicate that. And that's why I like baking, because you're like, if I do this exactly the same as I did it before, I should get a very similar product.
Mm-hmm.
So
Similar.
I like that.
Similar.
I don't know. But according to
What
you,
do.
the outcome of every cooking of every meal depends on what the weather was that day, the humidity, the direction of the wind. I don't know if I believe.
If,
No,
if
it's
she's
just
cooking
come up with this
pizza or
these days.
bagel dogs.
It's just yeast. It's a living thing that
Yeah.
responds to abiotic factors.
I think maybe what you should do, both of you should get like the same yeast, and you should do. Justin can make the bread in Davis at the same day, starting at the same time, and you'll make it in Daly City with the same yeast, starting at the same day, at the same time, and see how it comes out.
Yeah. I like it.
Bread separated only by location.
Isolate our variables. That's how it works.
It would be a
That's
bread
creating
space
the
time.
variables. The
It's
real way to do it
It's
is
a bread space time experiment. Come on.
we both prepare bread in Portland from scratch, and then compare
I
how
get to
the
eat it.
same- in the same kitchen.
Yes.
It's different.
Is how different it turns
Sure.
out. Then we'll know
Yeah.
whether it's the humidity and the weather and the airplane going over,
How rude.
how far you are from the nearest rail
Uh-oh.
system.
My dog rang the bell. She wants to go out.
Well trained little pup.
Wow.
Does she need
Yeah.
to go for a walk or
No,
is it...
she just needs to peep. I couldn't figure it.
Get out with
I'll be back
yourself,
too. I
little
also have to
dog.
take myself for a
No,
walk.
I'm actually
No.
going to say goodnight, I think.
Okay, we've got a couple
Okay.
people, so we will say goodnight now. All right. Anything else we need to say?
We'll be texting about next week.
You need to send me a link or something to the news sign up thing for the AAAS.
Oh, yeah, I need
we
to
were
do that
talking
too.
about. Maybe
I
already have
will
it.
send. Okay, I will send you both emails with information for registration for the AAAS.
Great.
Yes, that'll be taken care of.
Perfect.
We can talk in person next week
Perfect.
about where we're going to stay, if
Mhm.
we're all getting our own housing, or like what's going on. If some people are having vacation time with partners and what's happening. Yeah, so we should talk out those variables next week. But we're going to have an awesome show in San Francisco next week, and I'm super looking forward to that and seeing you both live in person.
Yes.
Yeah, that'd be good. And I hope the internet works. Yeah. That'll be fun. Okay.
She just
Justin,
rang it again.
say the
She's
thing.
like, go on,
Say-
I gotta
Say
go.
the thing. No, you're supposed to say the thing.
Say
Say
goodnight,
goodnight,
Blair.
Justin. Good night,
Good
Blair.
night,
Say goodnight, Justin. There you go. Good night, Kiki.
Good night, everyone. Can't wait to see you next week. Darn it. Buttons.